So that was Edith.
So Edith.
Well, I'm just the teacher. I just can't even get that British accent today. Anyway, somehow I came across the pond, and I ended up at the Indiana Training School with these gals here, and I must admit they've done a fine job of pulling together this chapter. That's all I can say. You know, I went on to live my life, but the best work I ever did was to getting these girls together. Good job, girls. That's all I'd like to say.
We have a name for her.
She probably has some more tea and crumpets.
No crumpets today, but I had the chocolate.
We saw you eat the chocolate.
Sorry.
I watched it. Don't think I didn't see it all.
Elizabeth, some things, don't we? Yeah, we stuck together for Dad Ethel, she used to call me Lazy Lily, Lazy Lizzie. Can you believe that?
Lily.
Well, maybe Lily. She couldn't remember my name.
I'm so glad you proved me wrong, little Lizzie.
Ethel. You just think you're just a
I'm
big
glad
shot.
they're not standing next
So-
to each other.
You notice who designed the pen?
Ladies,
color?
we need to focus. Okay. Elizabeth, you're
Oh,
next.
yes, that would be me. I forgot my name this morning, but now I got it. Elizabeth Belthor. Yes, I went to the training school at Indiana as well, and then, don't you know, I married a pediatrician.
They aren't the richest doctors, you know that? Okay.
And since then, I worked a little bit at Children's Hospital in St. Louis, and they tell me that place is still there. I think that's a wonderful thing. So I worked there for a while. I worked on the med-surg floor, and I did a little supervising at night. Imagine that. And, well, then I moved to California. Who else moved to California? Oh, that was you. I don't think we were in the same place. And then I kind of worked with the church and the crippled children. See, I had this children thing.
I want you to.
I know.
How many grandchildren do you have?
I don't know. I can't.
Lots?
I can't count.
Okay.
I can't keep track of that. Anyway, I died of a massive heart attack.
Exercise tonight.
I remember that.
Well,
That was awful.
We cried a
I
lot.
didn't.
We went to
We went to the Mary and I went
Yes,
to
we
your
did.
funeral, but
Yes.
you know, Ethel didn't go.
Turns
But
out
I want you to know the rest of us were there for you,
Well, I
Elizabeth.
certainly appreciate that.
You're welcome. We always stuck together. Always
Okay.
will. Mary, it's okay. It's your turn. Mary, dear, it's your
Oh, it's my
I'm
turn?
done. There
Okay.
you go.
Well, I'd just like to, nobody else has said anything, but I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Susan McReynolds for inviting all of us back. And I want to tell you, coming down from heaven, being here on earth is just really nice, but heaven is wonderful. But now my tour of duty here on earth is up February 20th. Because you see, back in 1999, February 20th, I celebrated my last day here on earth. And you know what? I'm buried in an urn with, next to my husband, John Jr., Ride. See, I was a totally Unam, and then I was a Ride in Arlington National Cemetery. Can you imagine that? That you would be buried that day? Oh, it was wonderful, I guess. I don't know. My kids do.
Oh, your kids do.
And you know, my father, he was an affluent undertaker. Oh, man. And my mother was a graduate of Purdue University. So we had a very strict and, well, we were pretty reserved in my family growing up. And I owe so much to my grandparents and parents and for them helping me. I really do. And some say literature shows that I'm the ringleader of these 6 founders. You know, I'm the ones that really got us together. Yes. And you know what we did when we formed this Sigma Theta Tau organization is just like a change project that I think some of the students worked on. This was what it was, and it turned out to be really nice. So you all keep working on those change projects. Now, I took my first job from a newspaper ad. And I grew up in Indiana, and that's where I graduated from, as you all know. And I went to Houston, Texas. I lasted as a hospital staff nurse for 3 months. I didn't like it. I felt really isolated, very isolated. So then I decided I needed to be out in the community. I really worried about the environment and everything. So I went on and I went to Houston and College Station, and I signed up on a registry for community nursing, and I did private duty, I did night duty, I ministered in the homes, and then I met my husband in College Station. And while I met him, I was working for a physician in his house, and his wife was a nurse, and I did my first delivery and surgical procedure right there in his house. That's how we took care of people back
Isn't that
then.
your original people?
Yes, it is, yes. And in 1925 then, John and I got married, and this southern accent I have is because we moved to Arkansas. You know, back then, wherever the husband got the job, the woman went, and thank heavens that's changed, right? The women, yeah, so they say, yeah. So, anyway,
Here, are you sharing a book?
yeah, I am. I worked hard on this.
Page 2.
Anyway, we lived in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I was the director of nursing and the dean of the school of nursing at Arkansas, just like you all had here. Some of you weren't born yet, but Loretta Eno, she was a director and a dean of our school of nursing. And that's what I did. And oh, man, that was a hard job. It was wonderful, though, and I remember being a clinical instructor up on the floor, and a student dropped a vial of morphine on the floor. Oh, Barbie. And her name was Miss Tyler. And Miss Tyler, they tell me that she said this, and I've read it now that I'm back here on Earth, that she said I was one of the most friendly and caring professors she's ever met, and that I didn't chastise her. I was very kind but very firm about what she did. But then I said, well, I hope the FBI won't come on me, honey. And as Susan had said, yeah, she was scared. Betty Brown was one of my students, and Susan McCrindle sat next to one of the presidents of Sigma Theta Tau, and I was asked to come to their induction ceremony, and I just couldn't believe how they went on, and I guess she thought I was really special. She called me one of her mentors, and it was really an honor to be there. And then in the retirement, she and I got to be really close friends, because we retired in Bayview, Texas, and just had a wonderful time down there. And but also my life, I tell you, my husband moved all over the place. You got to stick with me, fellas. I went overseas, and we lived in Nepal. We went to Nepal, and we lived in a Queen's Palace. And I was an unofficial nurse. And then I worked in Liberia. I worked in Afghanistan, and thank God it's not like it is now. Back in 1962, I retired. But now the one thing you want to remember is I'm the oldest one that lived to be 98 years old. I died in 1990. These others, who knows what they were doing.
What year did you die?
1999. I was 98 years old. Yes. So you all keep up that hard work, that research.
I wonder why that
going.
meat looks a little worn.
Yes, it does.
Oh.
So thanks again for inviting me.
Can you tell Mary was our historian? Ellen down there thinks that she just knows everything, but you know what? You listen to this Mary, she's a wealth of knowledge. Now, my name is Elizabeth McWilliams Miller, and I was born here in Illinois, Olean, Illinois. Do any of you remember that place?
Where?
Illinois?
I think
It's
it's all.
Olney.
Olney.
Is that what you finally call it after all these years?
Olney.
Olney.
Home of the white squirrels.
Really? I never saw the white squirrels. You're smart.
I think she's on
I think she's a pretty
What did you do, honey?
Did you
What
come
did you
with
do?
money? You man, come work with me.
Oh,
Okay?
my.
You know, you know, ourselves, the ones that always like to have some fun when we were at school. You know, lazy. Go figure. Anyways,
What are we doing after this? Something more
whatever
than
Ethel
tea
wants,
and pie.
everything Ethel wants to do. Wants everything.
We died for potato.
Now, I did go to the University of Washington, D.C., and I did get a degree from there, and I became a public health nurse. Public health has always been where my interest lies. And I've lived in several different places, and I lived in Washington, D.C., and that's where I picked up my politician husband, mind you, and we were married for 32 years. But I don't want it like everybody else does. We were married at 50,
65 years we died.
Did you get a rose or a party?
Yes.
Good. I didn't have anything. That's okay.
Now I'm gonna go ahead and go on.
I
do have class.
You do?
Oh.
Okay, honey. You know, Mary, you know.
I took a
she
lot of time, I'm
she
sorry,
was-
but I was really
So then, we got married and I moved to Washington DC for a while, okay, with my politician husband, and then we went to Miami, Florida. But I want you to know that in Washington DC, I did a little research, okay? So, and I started my study there, and I went to the southeastern part of the United States. And I did research on the costs, medical costs for older people. So I was one of the beginners. Thank gosh for that, huh? And then I just continued to work down there, and sometimes I just volunteer in the infirmary in Miami. And now I died when I was 92 years old. I didn't earn to. Yeah, but that's okay. It's orchid, and mind you, I don't know if I told you all about the orchid, but I was the one that came up with the original pin design. My orchid color in fuchsia, and I went to this funky top dance boy when I was a senior in nursing school, and it was fun, and I wore this gown that was just gorgeous. And it was glistening. Did you see the Grammys last night? No, but that
Did your
little
boobs show?
No, when I walked in that Ethel, I had to tell her to button up. But anyways, so that's I pushed her son, and yes, now it's working her historic, so she has to move on. She's been drinking some of that milk and magnesium from that bottle. Yeah.
Oh, my name is Dorothy
Yes.
Adams.
No.
I actually graduated from high school in Brazil, Indiana. Most of in Brazil. A couple of us decided we wanted to go to school, so we went on to Indiana University. That's where we got our degree as a nurse. Then we all kind of began our different ways. I like pediatrics, so my first job was in pediatrics.
That's right, that's right.
You love pediatrics, and I just
You were
love
always
pediatrics.
so good with those children.
So then I was in pediatrics, then I became a nurse director, then a nurse manager, and then I decided to move to St. Louis, which is another person moved to, we all moved to St. Louis.
There you are.
Isn't that amazing? St. Louis, Missouri, not too far from here.
Missouri.
Missouri.
It's Missouri, honey. I'm sorry you used to say that.
Okay. Then I was in children's
Sticking to
hospital
it, Mary.
for quite some time. Then I decided to go to Fort Lauderdale. And when I went to Fort Lauderdale, I worked there. I thought it was such a nice place. And I stayed there until I was about, I think, 79. And when I died at 79. But I died a little early. So, but I'm so happy to be here with my friends. It's such a nice place. You know what you got up?
To my son.
I got pneumonia, and you know how many times I cried?
I don't pneumonia. I don't remember. I just died. I just died.
Did they leave you on to me too long in that
It's
song?
okay.
That long song?
It's okay.
Well,